All it took to make Grandpa Joe walk was for Charlie to show him that he wasn't the biggest loser in the world. What the hell is this? Also, capitalism. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are talking about Wonka 2023, directed by Paul King. And this time, the story follows Willy Wonka, a young chocolatier who travels to the big city with the hopes of selling his chocolate and sharing his gift to the world. But will he succeed, or will the evil tyrannies of capitalism ruin his life? The answer is both. And let me tell you, this film is sweet. Yeah, that was bad. I guess you could say it left a bitter taste. Okay, yeah. But in all reality, this was a charming film nonetheless. Now, before I start praising the film, I do have to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Timothée Chalamet should have dyed his hair for the role. I don't know why he didn't go for the dirty blonde / brown look. Instead, he kept his darker hair color. But I digress. Though, I will say, I do think Chalamet did a fantastic job in the role. He comes from a theater background, and especially during the musical portions of this movie, it shows. I will say that his portrayal of Wonka is definitely not going to be to everybody's liking. The simplest way to explain it is that this version of Wonka succeeds when it's not trying to be Gene Wilder's. Even though everything in this film indicates that it is a prequel to that movie, it's not one-on-one all the time, and like I said, it works best when it's not trying to be that original movie. I think the best parts of the film, which I'll get onto in a bit, are the more dramatic portions of the film, the parts where there aren't as many jokes, because I do think that the jokes in this film are either a hit or a miss. I like Timothée Chalamet, but it's like I said, it's when he tries to resemble the original Wonka that the film doesn't work as much, and this is mainly through the jokes. There's a lot of times where he's just trying to be like Gene Wilder, or give a line delivery, or say something in the way that Gene Wilder would have said it as Wonka. It's that stuff that just makes it feel like he's just trying to be him. But when he does his own thing and he goes off in his own direction, the film really succeeds. Like, for example, I think one of the best bits, I guess you could say, that worked was Wonka's illiteracy. It wasn't funny, but they played to it sporadically through the film, and I think it worked really well. I think there's this bit towards the beginning of the film where Wonka has to sneak into a zoo and he has to milk a giraffe. Yeah, the plot gets really weird like that. But since he's illiterate, he almost gets eaten by a tiger, because guess what? He couldn't read the sign. And I don't know why. The way he did it, the way Timothy just played on that, just so funny to me. And it's moments like that where his own humor comes through, that the film succeeds in terms of the jokes and the comedy that it's trying to convey. I also do think that the cast is pretty one note. Now, this isn't a bad thing for the overall viewing experience, but don't go into this expecting a career best from everyone. Obviously, the standout, as we know, is Timothée Chalamet, Wonka. The film heavily focuses on him. It does focus on a couple other characters, which I'll mention in a little bit here. But most of the cast is pretty one note. Even all the secondary characters kind of feel like what you think they're gonna be like your first impression of them is exactly what they are throughout the film, and most of them don't really have an arc, or that big of an arc, and when it is resolved, it's just kind of done like, oh, here's this, you know. I guess the easiest way to put it is that these characters can kind of just be summarized in like one or two tropes. You've got your classic evil, greedy corporate men, your side characters that just kind of have one personality trait, and that's their characterization for the rest of the movie, and Oompa Loompas. Mainly one Oompa Loompa, but they show other ones. The film also has some great cinematography. The use of practical effects really carried this film in terms of its visual prowess. A lot of the sets in this film are practical, and I think that was a fantastic creative choice. If we had used more CGI, I don't think we would have felt as attached to this world and these characters as we did. But because they were practical, you were like, damn, this feels nice. And obviously this is a fake city, and you can tell it's a fake city, and most of the movie is like one block but it still works for what the film is trying to convey. And the film utilizes a lot of pink, a lot of orange, and a lot of brown. And these are some excellent choices because it makes the film convey this innocent feeling, this sweet, innocent, charming feeling, which is exactly what the film was trying to do. If you've seen Paul King's other work, he is mainly known for the Paddington films, and those films have a very particular style, and you can see that style carried over to this film. I remember a couple months ago, this film had released its first trailer, and it didn't even cross my mind watching it. I thought it was going to be a good film, but then I watched the Paddington films, and I realized, yep, I gotta go watch Wonka in theaters. And look at us now. The music was also pretty standout in my opinion. I don't think any of the songs or the soundtrack are all that memorable, but that doesn't make it bad. Every time the music was on screen, I had a good time, I had a fun time, and I'm probably gonna go back to listen to it. I don't remember any of the songs off the top of my head, but I do know they were good songs. Now, if you're going into this movie expecting a cheerful and happy story about a kid with young dreams who succeeds by the end of the story, well, you're gonna get that. But there's gonna be some tears along the way. Wonka, as the title puts it, is a sad story. And I don't mean that lightly. In both comedic and non-comedic ways, actually. That's what makes the story great. I think it's when, like I said, it's those dramatic parts that really help the film stand out. And trust me, this film gets very dramatic. There's crooked cops, child abuse, child abandonment, indentured servitude, and there's a cartel. I mean, at one point in the film, these evil, greedy corporate men, who are the cartel, convince Wonka to stop making chocolate so he can help his friends, and then they're like, hey, we're gonna send you away. So then they put him on a boat, and then the boat explodes, and he just casually swims 4 miles in like freezing water. And then later in the film, those same people also try to drown him in chocolate. Yeah, this film is dark, but there is one standout character besides Wonka himself that I think really helped elevate the story, and this was Noodles. I think Noodles as a character was fantastic. Her dynamic with Wonka, with Willy, was very sweet, and I felt for her character arc. And then by the end of the story, when you see her reunited with her mother, it feels sweet. It feels well deserved. Also, she was a child who was abandoned and abused, and she is also related to one of the corporate greedy men, and it turns out that her father was killed by him. Yeah, it's not really this is a kids movie, but like I said, Timothy is great when this film is more sad and darker. He is a fantastic actor, and it's in those scenes where you really see that out of him. The original Wonka, as we know, is kind of a psychopath. He's kind of this crazy guy. I think this film helps fill in those gaps as to how he gets to the point that he is in that film. By the events of that film, he's already tired. He doesn't really care about a lot of things anymore. There's this element of of joy in him. It's a little bit extinguished. But here, he's fresh, he's new, he's got that joy like 24/7. And he does have a bit of those psychopathic tendencies, but then again, so do a lot of other characters in this world and in this movie, as we've seen. So he's not the only psychopath, and you can kind of see why and how he would become that psychopath that we see. But what I really enjoyed most about the film, what he was trying to do. Wonka wanted nothing more but to share his gift with this world, and that's the message of the story. Like I said, there's a plot point about how Wonka doesn't know how to read or write. Before his mom had died, she left him with a bar of chocolate with the secret to why her chocolate was so good written inside of it. And so at the end of the movie, when he pulls out that same bar that his mother left him, he opens it up, and the secret is to share your chocolate with other people, with those you love, those you care about. And it's kind of a sad but sweet thing. It's a wholesome moment that ties all the films together. And if you think about it, it kind of changes the ending of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory just a little bit. So as we know, Wonka by that film is kind of tired, and towards the end of the film, he gets a little bit angry and frustrated. But when he decides to give Charlie his factory, you can see him light up, and he feels He feels joyful once again. He has spent a lot of years making chocolate and being this persona. And so he kind of, at some point, probably got tired of it. And that's why he wanted to give up the factory and give it to somebody else. But when he gives Charlie that factory, it's kind of like he's gotten back that spark of joy that he had once lost. The spark of joy that he has in this film. And on top of that, just to make it even more sweet, the message that his mom left for him was written on a gold piece of paper, which obviously is the precursor to the golden ticket in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I think that's where the film really, really stood out for me, in that message it's trying to convey. Because it's a message that, well, obviously we know it. Seeing it still felt good. It still felt like, yeah, we needed to see this. That the chocolate works, the chocolate, the sweets, everything all in this world works because we're sharing it. We're sharing the love that we have with other people. And I think that's the beautifully sad part of Wonka. So, all in all, if you haven't seen Wonka, I think it's a lovable film that will definitely get you attached and hooked to the characters and story. I would definitely recommend it. There's no reason for this film not to be as good as it is. If you like Paddington, and if you especially like Paddington 2, you're gonna love this film. It's a sweet, charming film. So yeah, go watch it, go check it out. It's still in theaters. It'll probably be streaming in a couple months. But if you have seen it, let me know down in the comments. As per usual, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch me talk about the evil tyrannies of capitalism. And until next time, see you, Space Cowboys.